Welcome back to a Valentines special of Candid with Kannyn. In this episode, we feature Colby, Kannyn's husband, as they share how they've managed and grown the business throughout the years.
Welcome to the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself, honey?
I am Colby Corder, husband of Kannyn January.
It's very official. We are so grateful that you would do this. I know this isn't your cup of tea.
I didn't have a choice.
Yes, you did. So I wanted to share with our audience some of the challenges and some of the joys of being able to work together. I think, we know several couples who work together in some capacity, but how long have we been together, babe?
As a couple for 16 years.
And how long have we been married?
13, coming up on 13.
You mean 13 joyful years?
13 plus. Yeah.
The best years of your life.
Yeah, of course. Those are nuts.
And we have 2 kids. How old are boys?
Hayden is 13 and Asher is 9.
And we have a dog and 2 cats now and a lizard. Yeah. So we have a full plate.
Yeah.
Who takes care of the animals?
I do, pretty much exclusively.
So how long have you and I been running the stores together?
I left my job working in the tech industry about 5 or 6 years ago now. And I guess I would help occasionally here and there when you needed new stereo system installed in one of the stores prior to that, but exclusively
lots of advice, lots of free advice at night.
But yeah, exclusively working together with me not having another job or career about 5 or 6 years ago. And
what prompted you to want to do that? Because it was your decision, which was awesome.
Yeah, I think, you were such a great entrepreneur that you kept building the business and making it bigger and bigger as I was kind of focusing on my career. And I was noticing as we were growing that we had less and less time together. I think I got to the point where I realized that if we put our heads together and focused on more of a family business thing, then we could spend more time together as a family and we wouldn't need a nanny and be away from each other as much. So I think it started making
we both
more
traveled too
we
for
traveled
work
a lot.
So that was complicated
we were
at times.
working long hours and yeah. So I wouldn't even see you guys in the morning because I would leave for work before you guys even woke up. And then I would get home in the evenings and see you for, a couple hours. And that was kind of...
Well, sometimes you would see the boys because they had a pretty strict 7:30 bedtime.
Yeah.
Like you'd see them for like an hour and a half.
Right. So That was a big part of what I thought the direction I wanted my life to go and our lives to go as a family that was missing. So it seemed to me with your brilliant leadership that we could achieve more of a family unit.
How was that transition for you? Having your own career probably feels very different than working together in a business. So how was that transition?
It was, I think it's still a transition. It's, it's something that you're constantly learning how to manage. And, there's, I think it's been tricky, like the overlap of work and personal family life stuff has been interesting to sort of navigate.
You mean you get sick of me?
No, it's more like prior to me coming on and helping at Ambiance, if something happened at work, that was at work. It stayed at work, and I could work it out the next day at work or something. Something happens at work at Ambiance, then that comes home with me because I'm with you like a lot. So, and vice versa, like something happens at home, then that goes into work together and we have to work it out. We don't have like that separate sort of way to work things out. It's like, it's all integrated into our lives.
So if you had to give advice to a couple who was maybe about to embark on this journey, what would you say?
I'd say be patient and understanding and mindful of how you may come across in the things that you're saying. And, these are just things I would say to anybody about life in general. But I think, especially when you're working with a partner, you're going to not necessarily see eye to eye on everything, and that's fine. But the way you communicate your disagreement is really, really important.
Amen. I told him I was going to ask him some uncomfortable questions. So. How'd you know I was the one?
Oh, what a segue.
We'll get back to that other stuff and break it up.
I think I probably knew before you did, if I had to guess, which makes complete sense because when we met, I was going to Cuesta and working at a record store. So my life prospects did not seem super encouraging. And you had like graduated from Cal Poly, you owned a business, and lady about town. So I felt like I just like won the lottery. And so I was really surprised that you were interested in me. I think this story. I've told this before, but I remember when we first started hanging out, I had this friend who I was talking to about you, and I always felt like you were too good for me, And so I was like talking to my buddy and said, "Well, how do you get a girl that's too good for you?" And he said, "Don't think she's too good for you." That like really rang true to me. I was like, "Oh yeah, I can do this." And I guess the rest is history. Somehow I convinced you that you should be with me, and it worked.
Some people probably know these stories, but I'll share it with our audience that he used to walk me to work almost every day when we were dating, barefoot, mind you. And he'd bring me lunch, and he would just come by and visit, and it was so sweet and so romantic. And I, in spite of his prospects, I fell in love with who he was as a person, and he was brilliant. He just took a different detour after high school. Tell people what you did after high school.
Yeah, so I grew up here in St. Louis, so I think I had this feeling that a lot of people living in small towns have, where
everybody I know that grew up in St. Louis, I feel feels this way.
It's like a small town cabin fever or something. I just felt like I needed to get out and see the world. Initially, I traveled around Europe for a while, and that was really fun. I had some crazy experiences. I got robbed at one point while I was traveling. I had to sleep on the streets a couple nights. Like it was a wild ride. And came back and decided I wanted to move to New York. So I saved up some money for about a year and then moved out to New York City, lived there and for about a year and a half or so. And I managed a restaurant in the city and hung out, did a lot of growing up while I was out there. I didn't
slept on a few couches.
Slept on some couches, yeah. In the
beginning. It wasn't who's the famous person the designer that you? Zaldi.
Yeah, I made friends with
for people who don't know that, he did Gwen Stefani's. Yeah. He was the designer for Gwen Stefani's line.
Zaldi's a great guy, really nice person. Anyway, so I think I was there until I was about 21, maybe 22, and just realized kind of what I was missing here, and decided to come back. And
for those of us who didn't grow up in San Luis Obispo, I think that any of us who come here realize how special it is.
Well,
instantly.
I haven't left since. So
yes.
It's a special place, So I came back and started going to Cuesta and got into Cal Poly, met you, and
not in that order. You met me. You were 22 when we met.
Yeah,
we're getting old.
We won't say who's older.
I'm older. He likes to remind me. Back to the business. What do you think that you've seen that we've done over the years that has helped us get to where we are now?
The big thing about being a business owner, as far as I can surmise based on my experience, is you have to be a really good problem solver and you have to wear a lot of hats. So it's not just problem solving one thing. Like if I'm a computer programmer, I'm problem solving how to do some coding stuff, right? But if you're a business owner, there's a million different things you have to know about. And hiring good people has helped to help us kind of learn and figure out what we don't know.
Hiring people, not being afraid to hire people that are more qualified than you are.
Right.
Yeah.
And then learning from them and, helping them grow in other ways. And so, yeah, I think not being afraid to dive in and really be an open book and learn and
make mistakes.
Make mistakes along the way.
I would say that we've made a lot of mistakes.
A ton of mistakes.
Yeah.
So.
And then moving forward, you have a good friend and he works with companies like Fortune 500 companies all over the world and works with CEOs. And he's talked to us about how like basically your grit quotient, how the cats are really adversity quotient. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's developed a system for essentially, it's like IQ, but instead of intelligence, it's your grit, like how resilient you are.
But your resilience, how resilient you can be, basically determines your level of success. And I would say that that's been really true for us because there's been many moments. Our cat really agrees with this right now. That had we given up or quit trying in one arena of our business, then we wouldn't be where we are today.
Sure. And I think I mean, this is maybe kind of cliche to say now, but you do really learn the most from failing. If you constantly have success, then I feel like you're missing a big part of what it means to build something. You know,
I think about that a lot in terms of our kids, and even this last year, because it's been one of the hardest years that I've been through in my lifetime. And not because of any one thing, but it's because of everything, between us having to shut down and having to deal with having to like navigate our vendors and our, support our employees and stay positive and stay motivated. And then we shifted online so fast. That's probably something we didn't do well. We should have been working on.
We should have been
more.
working on that a long time ago.
I mean, we were, but not in the right way.
Not the way we are now. But,
yeah. And then just with our kids and having to homeschool, and then having, family members with health issues, and it's been a lot.
It's been a lot for everyone. We're not alone. I feel fortunate.
Yeah, but
in some ways.
But I think about that for our kids. I actually lost my train of thought, because I do think that adversity is really good. Like, I'm worried about, the state of our world and our community, but I also feel like challenging times really leads to building that adversity quotient. So I do think that one of the things we can say about our kids and everybody's kids is that this is going to force them to grow.
Sure. I think challenging times also have this cool way of like revealing opportunities that you didn't see before. If you're in this mode of sort of just going through the motions and keeping things going, I feel like you're not as aware of kind of what's going on around you. And when you really have to think about, well, maybe this isn't going to work, I'm going to have to figure some stuff out, you start realizing that there are other things out there that you can tap into to
it forces innovation, right? Yeah. What do you think some of the silver linings have been for you over this last year?
There's a few. I think one, I as challenging as it is in some ways that we're locked down, I've really enjoyed the closeness that I've had with my family. I mean, we're dropping the kids off in the morning and we don't see them, for most of the day. So
and then there's sports,
right? So we're, you get into this routine of just sort of shuttling children around. So it's been nice to actually be around them and spend quality time with them, shoot the basketball around,
board games,
yeah, movie nights. Like, I don't know, you can't do anything else, right? So we're
hanging
as
down.
a family. This is
yeah. What do you think the hardest part of this last year has been for you?
There's a lot of things. One, I guess the thing that came to mind first was friendships. I feel like some friendships have grown a lot closer, and others have become really challenging to sort of navigate. And granted, I wouldn't say I'm a bad friend, but I definitely
You're a dude.
struggle with
You're such a dude. I have to be like, hey babe, have you talked to so-and-so in a while? No. It's like, maybe you should reach out.
I'm not the best at reaching out, probably. So I'm not blaming anyone but myself in some ways, but we've become.
Oh my gosh, that cat is so funny. Want to lock it up. What do you think that we did over this last year that has enabled us to? This was obviously a tough year for the business, but I think all things considered, we have done very well. So what do you think?
How did we weather the storm?
Yes. The rocks in my head fill the holes in his.
I think it was a lot of different things. I mean, I think not delaying. I think you can get in trouble when you're not on top of things. So I think seeing ahead and trying to plan for the next few months and not just waiting to see how it works out. I think having that foresight of like, well, we don't know how this is going to go. So let's make sure that we have all our ducks in a row,
Yeah,
so
we put all our orders on hold
right.
the minute the lockdown happened, which is huge. I mean, in a retail store, retail environment, there's only a certain number of costs that you have control over.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them are fixed, like insurance and rent and utilities and payroll to some degree, depending on how many staff members you have. But obviously, inventory is a huge expense, and it's really determined on how much you order. So,
sure. I also think, and we were doing this prior to the pandemic, the philosophy that you have on customer service and creating relationships, I think has really helped. I think we had enough people who love Ambiance and love Kelsey and all the girls at the stores.
we're really, really blessed in that way.
Very fortunate that we have people who care about us and wanted us to make it through this.
Yeah. I mean, I tell my staff this, that people don't really ever buy stuff from a retail business, especially now with how easy it is to find things through our phones or our computers. They really buy the relationships and the experience and the connection. So although the merchandise we curate, it's important that it's what the customer is looking for and wants. We have a really great staff right now who they're good people. And I want people to feel good in the store, whether they are a great customer or they don't ever shop, but they just like to come look.
Yeah.
What do you see for our future?
You specifically, what do you mean? Like
for our business, for
business?
Yeah.
I think we've tried a couple different growth scenarios that didn't work out.
Yeah. Do you want to tell them about that, babe?
Just having businesses out of the area. I think where we're at right now is
sometimes
working well.
Less is more.
Sometimes less is more.
Yeah. We had 2 other stores. We had a store in Mill Valley for 5 years and a store in Montecito for
that was only a couple of years,
2.
right?
Yeah. And we closed the Montecito location during the shutdown.
Yeah.
But the Mill Valley store we had closed before that. Managing a business that is outside of where you live is very hard. I mean, Paso is 30 minutes away, but you can travel there every day, multiple times a day if you need to. But Mill Valley is kind of another story.
Yeah. Even Montecito, which is, an hour and a half away. It's not terrible, but it's still a 3-hour commute, so.
Yeah. It was more like 2 hours, I think, with traffic. So it was
if there's traffic,
4 hours.
Yeah, you're in for a longer ride for sure.
Beautiful communities, both of them. Yeah. I loved very much.
I loved, and the experience of doing that in some ways was enjoyable.
We got to spend a lot of time in San Francisco.
Yeah. And like you said, Marin County in general is just a gorgeous place.
Yeah. Hiring there was
staffing
not my favorite. That
alone was
If what would be our biggest challenge in any business, would you say?
Our biggest challenge in any business?
Staffing. It's managing employees. I think that is
for sure
the hardest
especially
part.
when you're not able to be there.
Yeah. Even here, I think it's hard managing personalities and oversee. The bigger you get, the harder it is to oversee and creating expectations and also encouraging your employees. And, there's a lot that goes into making sure people are happy and people are getting along and
it's not fair.
Is getting done.
It's not fair to them either. If we're not able to be there and we're not able to be the best, leaders that they deserve.
Tune in for part 2, where Colby and Kannyn share where they see Ambiance going in the next 5 years and their favorite family stories.